welcome to this guide on professional phrases for asking opinions. In meetings, team discussions, and everyday workplace conversations, the way you invite someone to share their thoughts can set the entire tone. A well-chosen phrase encourages participation, shows respect, and keeps dialogue flowing naturally. In this presentation, we will walk through a structured approach to selecting the right phrases based on the situation, the level of formality, and the person you are speaking to. By the end, you will have a practical toolkit of expressions ready to use in your next meeting or conversation. So why does this matter? Think about it this way. When someone asks for your opinion in a meeting, how does that make you feel? Most people feel respected and engaged. That is exactly the effect you want to create. First, asking for opinions builds trust. When team members feel their voice is genuinely welcome, they become more committed to the group. Second, it leads to better decisions. Hearing multiple perspectives helps uncover blind spots and generates stronger solutions. And third, using the right phrasing encourages participation from people who might otherwise stay silent. Studies consistently show that teams where leaders actively seek input are more innovative and have higher engagement. So the words you choose really do make a difference. Here is the key insight. Instead of trying to memorize a long list of phrases, think about what you actually need in the moment. We can organize every opinion-asking phrase into 5 clear situations. Situation 1, opening the floor. This is when you have just presented an idea and want someone to respond first. Situation 2, seeking depth. This is when you want someone to share more detail about how they feel or what they think. Situation 3, drawing out the quiet. This is when someone has been silent, and you want to gently bring them into the conversation. Situation 4, requesting specifics. This is when you need a focused opinion on a particular point or aspect. And situation 5, encouraging additions. This is when the discussion is going well, and you want to invite more contributions. Let us now look at each of these in detail. Let us start with situation 1, opening the floor. This is the moment right after you have shared an idea or a proposal. The room is quiet, and you need someone to speak first. Here are 4 phrases that work well. The first one is, what is your initial reaction to this? This is perfect right after a presentation or a pitch. It is direct and inviting. The second phrase is, I would love to hear your first impressions. This works beautifully when you are starting a feedback session. It feels warm and genuine. Third, how does this sit with everyone? Use this after sharing a new proposal. It is open-ended and non-threatening. And fourth, what are your immediate thoughts on this approach? This is ideal after you have outlined a strategy and want quick input. Notice that all 4 phrases are open-ended. They do not push people toward a yes or no answer. They create space for honest responses. Now, situation 2, seeking depth. Sometimes someone gives a short answer, and you can tell there is more beneath the surface. These phrases help you dig deeper without being pushy. First, how do you feel about that particular aspect? This is great when someone has given a brief response and you want them to expand. Second, could you walk us through your thinking on this? Use this when you need to understand the logic or reasoning behind someone's position. Third, what concerns or opportunities do you see here? This phrase is wonderful because it is balanced. It asks for both the positive and the negative, which makes people feel safe, to be honest. And fourth, can you help us understand your perspective a bit more? This is a respectful way to say, I want to hear more from you. The key with all of these is the tone. Keep it curious and genuine, not interrogative. Situation 3 is one of the most important, drawing out quiet voices. In every group there are people who hold back. They might be introverted, junior, or simply waiting for an opening. These phrases help you bring them in gently. The first phrase, we have not heard from you yet, what are your thoughts? This is direct but kind. It signals that their silence has been noticed and their voice is welcome. The second, I know you have experience in this area, what is your take? This is powerful because it validates the person's expertise before asking them to speak. It gives them confidence. Third, would you like to weigh in on this before we move on? This creates a natural window without pressuring anyone. And fourth, I am curious to hear your perspective on this. This is warm and personal. It makes the invitation feel genuine rather than procedural. One important tip. When you use these phrases, make sure your body language matches. Smile, make eye contact, and give the person a moment to collect their thoughts before expecting a response. Situation 4. Requesting specific viewpoints. Sometimes you do not need a general opinion. You need someone to focus on one particular aspect. These phrases narrow the scope without being restrictive. First, what is your view on the timeline we have proposed? This focuses the conversation on a single element, making it easier for people to contribute. Second, from a technical standpoint, how do you see this working? By specifying the lens, you are giving the person permission to speak from their area of strength. Third, do you think this approach addresses the core issue? This is a great way to test whether a proposed solution is actually solving the right problem. And fourth, how would this impact your team specifically? This is essential in cross-functional meetings where different departments have different concerns. The beauty of specific questions is that they reduce the burden on the respondent. Instead of asking someone to comment on everything, you are giving them a clear entry point. And finally, situation 5, encouraging further contributions. The discussion has been going well, but you want to make sure nothing important has been missed. First, is there anything else we should consider? This is a classic closing question that signals the floor is still open. Second, what would you add to what has been shared so far? This builds on the momentum of the conversation. It shows you are listening and want even more. Third, does anyone see this differently? This is crucial. It explicitly invites disagreement in a safe way. Without this phrase, people may hold back opposing views. And fourth, are there any aspects we have not touched on yet? This catches the blind spots. It invites people to raise topics the group may have overlooked. These phrases are especially powerful near the end of a meeting because they signal that thoroughness matters to you. Let us see how all 5 situations come together in a single meeting. Imagine you are a team lead running a project review. You start by saying, "We have just reviewed the revised project timeline. What are your immediate thoughts on this?" That is opening the floor. Someone gives a brief response about resources. So you follow up with, "Could you walk us through your thinking on the resource allocation part?" That is seeking depth. Then you notice the design team has been quiet. So you say, "We have not heard from the design team yet. What is your take on this?" That is drawing out quiet voices. The discussion picks up, and you want to narrow the focus. You ask, "From a client relations standpoint, how do you see this working?" That is requesting specifics. And before wrapping up, you close with, "Does anyone see this differently, or have anything to add?" That is encouraging additions. See how naturally the 5 categories flow from one to the next? This is the power of thinking in situations, rather than memorizing individual phrases. Now, an important layer to add is formality. The same intention can be expressed at different levels of formality depending on your audience. At the very formal end, which you would use in board meetings or client presentations, you might say, "Would you be so kind as to share your assessment?" Or, "May I ask for your considered opinion on this matter?" These sound respectful and measured. In the middle, standard professional language, which works for most team meetings and project reviews, you would say things like, "What is your view on this?" Or, "Could you share your thoughts?" These are polished but not stiff. And at the casual professional end, for brainstorms, one-on-ones, and informal check-ins, you can simply say, "What do you think?" or "Any thoughts on this?" The key is to read the room. If you're too formal in a casual setting, it can feel awkward. If you're too casual in a formal setting, it can seem unprofessional. Match your language to the situation. Before we wrap up, let us talk about some common mistakes. These are traps that even experienced professionals fall into. Mistake number 1. Saying, "Does everyone agree?" The problem is this pressures people to conform. Nobody wants to be the one person who disagrees in front of the group. Instead, try, "How does everyone feel about this direction?" It is open and invites honest responses. Mistake number 2. Asking leading questions like, "You do not have any objections, right?" This practically tells people what answer you expect. Instead, say, "Are there any concerns we should address?" This welcomes dissent in a safe way. Mistake number 3. Rushing people with, "Quick, what do you think?" When you rush, people give shallow answers or say nothing at all. Instead, say, "Take a moment and share your thoughts when ready." This gives people the space to think, which always leads to better input. Remember, the goal is not just to ask. The goal is to create the conditions where people feel truly free to respond. Here is your quick reference table. Keep this handy for your next meeting. For opening the floor, your go-to phrase is, "What are your immediate thoughts on this?" For seeking depth, try, "Could you walk us through your thinking?" For drawing out quiet voices, say, "We have not heard from you yet. What is your take?" For requesting specifics, ask, "What is your view on this particular aspect?" And for encouraging additions, close with, "Is there anything else we should consider?" You do not need to memorize all 20 phrases from this presentation. Just remember these 5, one for each situation, and you will be well equipped for any professional discussion. Let us close with 5 key takeaways. First, think in situations, not individual phrases. When you are in a meeting, ask yourself, "What do I need right now?" And the right words will come naturally. Second, match your formality to the audience and setting. A board meeting calls for different language than a casual brainstorm. Third, use open-ended questions to invite honest responses. Avoid yes or no questions and leading phrases. Fourth, give people time and space to think before responding. Silence is not awkward. It is productive. And fifth, actively seek out quiet voices. The people who speak the least often have the most valuable perspectives. Thank you for watching, and remember, the best conversations start with the right question.